Sciences, or the School of Arts and Sciences, Susan Ernst, and Rocky's first football captain and member of the Board of Overseers, Robert Bass. Larry, Susan, and Bob will be speaking to you shortly as part of today's program. The acoustics are wonderful, aren't they? I'd also like to welcome and acknowledge the presence of a few others who've joined us this morning to acknowledge and honor Rocky. Former President John DiBiagio and his wife Nancy, former Chair of the Athletics Board of Overseers, John O'Neill, President of the Alumni Association, Alan McDougall, and an artist whose work you'll see in a little while when we unveil the plaque on the wall, Marilyn Marsh. Finally, I'd like to give a special welcome and thank you to the overseers and donors whose generosity have made this day possible. In addition to the people I've already acknowledged, today's crowd consists of many members of the extended Tufts community who've worked with Rocky, Tufts alumni, athletics department staff, and present student athletes. The turnout is evidence of the wide impact Rocky's had at Tufts through his years. As I stated earlier, there'll be several speakers today, so I'll try to keep my comments relatively brief. I thought I'd use my time to talk a bit about the history of this facility, and maybe at the end make a few personal comments about my relationship with Rocky as a boss. Cousins Gym and Cage were built in 1932, or at least they were completed in 1932, which ironically is the same year Rocky was born. When I found that out, I thought that was really weird. It was planned. Word has it that Rocky may be contemplating a renovation himself. And actually, along those lines, I want to relate to you a funny story from yesterday. Last night, we gave the Distinguished Achievement Award to Lisa Lax, class of 1986. And Lisa and her twin sister Nancy were in the athletics department, and Rocky comes in, and of course Rocky knew them well. And Lisa or Nancy, can't remember, can't tell them apart, said to Rocky, "You look great, you haven't changed." And Rocky said, "Thanks." And they say, "What's the secret?" And he says, "Start out old." That's absolute pure Rocky. In 1932, the Tufts Athletic Department consisted of about 7 male teams, and the construction of Cousins Gym and Cage gave our indoor track team its first home. Greats like Eddie Duggar and Walter Hall competed in one of the truly legendary figures of Tufts athletics, track coach Ding Dussault. In the early 1970s, the cage got a facelift as one of the first artificial surfaces in New England was laid down. The facility immediately became the site of major New England events and Greater Boston track events. I was a student here at that time, and great athletes from my era, some of you may remember, like Dan Moynihan, who used to run around here with a ponytail halfway down his back, phenomenal runner. Varney Hintlian, our Board of Overseer member's brother, Freddie Hintlian, who used to seem like he'd take about 15 feet with every step, had legs this long, and shot putter Marin Sadler graced this facility. It also continued to serve as the indoor practice facility for many of our outdoor teams, such as baseball, softball, tennis, and lacrosse. In 1972, through the support and efforts of the Tufts Jumbo Club, this facility was dedicated in honor of Ding Dussault, and for many more years, athletes ran and practiced in the Dussault Cage. But time waits for no one, and as it passed, this facility grew tired, and it grew outdated once again. And by the end of the 80s, we were no longer hosting track meets. The facility now busted at its seams from overuse. By then, the department had grown to 31 men's and women's teams and almost 1,000 athletes. The university recognized that the athletic facilities needed improvement, needed expansion, and in 1989, a new master plan was developed to develop the indoor facilities. The decision was made at that time to build a multi-purpose facility which would become the new home of our indoor track teams, our tennis teams, and again, many of our outdoor teams when they're practicing inside. That became, as you all know, the Gancher Family Sports and Convocation Center. During this plan, the Dussault Cage became earmarked for other uses, such as recreational basketball, volleyball, etc. And early plans actually called for the installation of a wood floor. But after living with the Gancher Center for a couple of years and getting a better sense of what it was that this facility needed to accommodate, we changed our mind as far as that was concerned, decided that a more versatile surface, an artificial surface, made sense. And this facility now can still accommodate recreational and intramural basketball, but it also can accommodate many, many other uses. Excuse me. When Rocky decided to retire 4 years ago, the Board of Overseers, under the leadership of John O'Neill, made the decision to raise funds to renovate this facility in honor of Rocky. John and the Overseers, in partnership with Rocky and the Development Office, had worked closely together to improve our indoor facilities, as the Lunder Fitness Center, the Chase Gymnasium, and the Gancher Center were all accomplished through this partnership. And once again, I'd like to thank all of those who came together to make this dream a reality. On a more personal level, I can honestly say that I owe my job to Rocky. Early in my career, he saw potential in me. He gave opportunity to me. He set challenges in front of me, and he placed responsibility on my shoulders. All the time, he was there as a mentor, as a role model, and as a friend. I couldn't have learned the craft from a better person. This job is largely dealing with people, and Rocky is a master at that. In closing, it occurred to me that while there have been many outstanding athletes in the history of Tufts, there really have been just 3 truly legendary, long-term figures in our athletics history. Houston Hall stands in honor of Pop Houston, our first full-time athletic director who was the president of the NCAA. Ellis Oval recalls the memory of Fish Ellis, legendary athlete, coach, and director. And the Dussault Cage pays tribute to Ding Dussault. Today, we dedicate this facility to our 4th longtime legend, Rocky Carzo. Congratulations, Rocky. And now I'd like to introduce President Larry Backow, who will make some comments.
Thank you very much, Bill. I'm really thrilled to join all of you today in honoring someone who I think really, truly embodies the spirit of Tufts. Of course, I speak of Rocky Carzo. Rocky has achieved much and has given much more back to Tufts during his nearly quarter-century tenure as first head football coach and then director of athletics. His legacy is not one of wins and losses, championships and national rankings, although we're immensely proud, Rocky, of all your teams have accomplished. God knows they've done well. In a prior life, I used to knock heads against some of Rocky's teams as a competitor myself, not with nearly as much success as I would have liked, I must add. Rocky, what you've really given us is your passionate belief that what happens on our playing fields, on our courts, in the pool, in the gym, on the water, has far broader applications than just the final score of any game or competition. You've taught us that what our students learn through sport, they really can carry through the rest of their lives. The importance of teamwork, of leadership, of fair play, of competition, of integrity, of commitment. Lessons that are good for all of us as we go forward. The athletics program that Rocky has nurtured and guided at Tufts during his service as our AD is a national model for Division III athletics throughout the country. A model that is unencumbered by commercialism, by, with all due respects, Lisa, to big-time TV, to professionalism, contracts, recruiting of athletes just because of their athletic skills. At Tufts, we really do embrace the notion of the scholar and the athlete as mutually reinforcing, greater than either one individually. At Tufts, we have exceptional students who also seek to compete at the highest level on the playing fields. And it's because of you, Rocky, that this is, and I think will continue to be, the foundation of our athletics program. Now, in his heart, I think Rocky always has been a coach. Always was, always will be. We've called him athletic director, but Rocky really is a coach. He's a coach of students. He's a coach of his colleagues. He's a coach for his friends. He served, however, also as a coach on the national level in a wonderful partnership with my predecessor, John DiBiagio, at the NCAA. Rocky, as I think many of you know, was vice president of Division III athletics, and together with John, who's a member of the NCAA Foundation, worked very, very hard to end abuses in major college sports. They really tried to be missionaries for a philosophy that I think we have embraced so successfully at Tufts for what athletics really ought to be in the context of American higher education. And this is that our best students, the best individuals, are those that achieve a balance between hard work and play and devotion to scholarship. It's always been Rocky's belief, even back from his days as a fullback at the University of Delaware, and I've always thought that Rocky had one of the all-time great names for a fullback. You know, Rocky Carzo. Can't you just see him, out there blasting through the line? Rocky's always believed that participation in sports is one of the wonderful ways that we develop leaders and leadership skills. And I think all you have to do is look around at the members of this community, at those who have played on our playing fields, either directly for Rocky as a coach or under his stewardship of our athletic program, and you can see how true this statement is. Developing leadership skills really is at the core of what an undergraduate liberal arts education ought to be about. And at Tufts, these lessons are learned both in the classroom as well as on the playing field. And Rocky, you've been one of our best teachers. But you might think that, a former highly successful football coach and athletic director would really be primarily concerned about varsity athletes, but this is not true about Rock. Indeed, all you have to do is look around this room and look at the people who are here today to honor this man. And you see an extraordinary cross-section of this remarkable community. You see faculty, you see alumni, you see students, you see parents, you see friends of the university. Because Rocky, again, being the coach that he is, has always wanted to keep everybody moving, everybody in shape. And it didn't make any difference to Rocky whether or not we would participate in varsity sports or just get out there clumsily as we may and try and become fit and to take care of our minds and our bodies. And all you have to do is to come into any of our facilities on almost any day of the week, and you can see a former provost swimming next to a varsity swimmer, and maybe our current provost will partake of that as well. You can see faculty members at the London Fitness Center working out, next to our varsity athletes. Happens all the time. You go down to the track, and you will see neighbors from Tufts who are there walking, again, with Rocky's encouragement over the years, and exercising right alongside some of our track and field athletes. Rocky's never cared about how graceful any of us are. Thanks, Rock. He's just cared that we get out and to do our best. And this is a wonderful legacy that you have left. Now, Rocky, I am told, retired 4 years ago. I think the proper characterization of this is the only thing that Rocky has ever failed at in his life. He has flunked retirement, and he has done so gloriously and to our benefit. He comes into his office daily and is still very much an active part of this community. Sometimes I'm surprised to see how active Rocky is. One of the nice things that I get to do as president of Tufts is, I have to go visit our campuses. And of course, we have a campus in Telloir, in the French Alps. And so I showed up at my first visit to Telloir, and I find here's another place that Rocky has really helped to put his imprint on Tufts, because Rocky is a trustee of the McJanet Foundation, and as tirelessly as he has worked on behalf of athletics at Tufts, he's also worked to promote that wonderful facility that we have in Telloir. As many of you know, Rocky, having hung around folks like Saul Gittleman over the years, has decided to become a historian in the next chapter of his life, and is writing a wonderful history of athletics at Tufts, Jumbo Footprints, which we all anxiously await. And Lisa and Nancy, some of us want to talk to you because we think this has true potential to be a major motion picture sometime in the future. Rocky's one of those rare individuals who has been able to make all the members of this community part of his team. He does that, I think, by living the values that he has always espoused. He does so with grace, with passion, with charm, and with a disarming sense of humor. And David Garman, just before we got together, reminded me that at our first meeting of the faculty every year, when each of the members of the faculty and major parts of the university stand up to introduce the new members of their department, Rocky would always do so with great humor and wit. And all of the other faculty members would look around and ask themselves, how come I couldn't have done that as well when I introduced my colleagues? He's made us in this university all richer by having been affiliated with Team Rocky. And for this, I think we are all extremely grateful. Rocky, on behalf of all of us, thanks, Coach.
And now please welcome Susan Ernst, Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences.
Thank you, Bill. I'm going to keep my remarks very short this morning, but I do have something I want to say. There are many ways that you get to know a person. When I arrived at Tufts many years ago, like other junior faculty, I immersed myself in my teaching and my research. Surrounded by students all day long and frequently well into the night in the laboratory, I quickly learned the importance of athletics in the life of Tufts students. One of the first students working in my lab, Doug Mole, typifies many of the student athletes I came to know in the classroom, as advisees, and as excellent, outstanding scholars. These young women and men had such a sense of teamwork, respect for others, passion for their sport, or sometimes for their sports, and for their academics. Their teammates and their coach were some of the most important people in their lives. They had to balance their practices, their studies, their research projects, and their games. From these students, I came to feel a presence, and I came to feel that there was someone, this presence at the top, making a difference, leading by example, and setting expectations. When I met Rocky Carzo, the presence and the person merged so seamlessly that I felt I had known him for years. Rocky Carzo was and has been and continues to be a presence on campus. He became part of every aspect of the campus and what was going on. He served on committees, went to activities, all of this so he could help understand and help shape the experience of our student athletes. Over the years, I have come to get to know Rocky as a person. I remember one very eventful and very difficult chairs meeting of all the department chairs when everything was in disarray. And Rocky slowly got to his feet and said, "Folks, we have a very wholesome opportunity here." It was a turning point, and I couldn't help but think that he had played this role many times as a coach of coaches, and to all of us here at Tufts. When I first came into the administration, Rocky called one day, and has several times after that, and said, "How are you doing up there?" He notices everyone, he cares, he reaches out. This cage, the dedication, is a very fitting, tangible tribute to Rocky, but his presence will continue to be the most tangible and long-standing tribute. Thank you, Rocky, for all you've done.
Thank you, Susan. And now please welcome Robert Bass, Arts 1970 Athletic Overseer and Rocky's first captain.
I've got the piece of Rocky as coach. There are many elements to Rocky's coaching philosophy. The three principal ones that I can recall are the following. Success is being the best you can be, first as an individual and then as a team. Secondly, Douglas MacArthur, in his farewell speech to the cadets at West Point, said it's about the core, and the core. Well, Rocky never stopped preaching to us that it's about the team, and the team. And I think probably the defining signature of a Carzo coach team was that you never quit. No matter how overmatched or undermanned we may have been, we never gave up. I remember Rocky as a fiery and emotional leader. I'll never forget there was a practice session in 1966. It was his first year here. The team was really struggling. We were 0-4, and we were really going through the motions at the practice, dogging it, and Rocky had had enough. He blew his whistle. Now, Rocky didn't have a mechanical whistle. 2 fingers in the mouth. I can't do it, but he herded everyone over into the end zone. 85 guys, told us to take a knee. He walks out to the 20-yard line and said, "This is the line in the sand." He says, "I know we're hurting and we're struggling, and if you want to quit, that's fine. I'll understand. Come on out here and turn your hat in." Nobody moved. Then Rocky, in his immortal line, said, "Well, if you stick it out, it's no retreat, baby, no surrender." And I have to tell you that Bruce Springsteen, 13 years later, copied Rocky's line in a very famous song. He promised us 2 things. He said 2 things will happen if you stick it out. We will get better and we will win. And sure enough, the team did improve that year, and they won their last game of the year 7-6 up at Bowdoin College. I remember Rocky as a surprisingly calm and very cool tactician under game day pressure. It was the Williams game, 1968. We had a 3-1 record. We went out to play Williams. They were unbeaten and untied, 4-0. Toward the end of the first half, we were down 22-0. To make matters worse, our starting quarterback went down with an injury. At halftime, Rocky spent the entire halftime huddled with our backup quarterback named Jim Ecott. And he was doing chalk work with him and diagramming stuff and all that stuff. He said like 5 words to the defense. He said, "Hang in there, we're going to win this game." Well, we came out and Tufts scored 30 unanswered points, and we hung on to win 30-28 in what may have been the greatest comeback victory in Tufts history. And after the game, actually, the Boston press was sort of in there, and they were asking Ecott, "Well, what did Carzo tell you at halftime?" And he said, "I don't know, but I sure as hell knew I had to do it." I remember a coach who was willing to listen and change if he was convinced. In 1969, Rocky had a grooming rule. Now, this may seem very trivial today, but the issue was hair length. You had to keep your hair cropped and short. Well, this was the turbulent 60s, and I went in to see Rocky with a couple other players and said, "Coach, the times are changing here. A lot of guys want to wear their hair longer and have a sense of self-expression." For the life of me, he could not understand why anyone would want hair sticking out of their helmet. But he said, "I'll think about it." The next day he came in and called the team together and said he's relaxing the grooming rule and he's going to allow you guys to go find yourself, kind of message. A couple years later, it was a very interesting remark Rocky made. He said the issue for him was really fear about giving up power and control. It wasn't the hair issue so much. Because football coaches in those days were very authoritarian figures. Some people thought they were totalitarian, but what a football coach said, he was the captain of the ship, and his rule was law. But Rocky realized that by listening to his team, he gained more control by being able to respond to his players. And I thought that was just a very interesting statement. Rocky had success on the field. We went from 1 win in 1967 to 5-3 in 1968, and to a rather stunning record in 1969, we were 6-2. But Rocky's greatest success was that he won the hearts and minds of his players during a very difficult and turbulent time to play football. Rocky would do anything to help his players and coaches on and off the field. We saw and we felt his undying commitment to us. That commitment continues to this very day, 33 years later. One of our teammates passed away this year, Jim Larson. Rocky spearheaded a fundraising effort to set up a memorial fund so Jim's boy could remain in school. And within a 4-week period, 25 players and coaches over the summer sent contributions in, and it's all because of Rocky. Coach, let me get my final remarks here. You never stop leading, you never stop caring, and you never stop loving. And we love you back forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for those wonderful and heartfelt remarks. At this time, I'd like to ask President Bacow, Rocky, and Terry to come to the stage so that I can read the inscription on the plaque. Immediately following that, we'll go over and unveil the plaque. I didn't come, Jackson.
I wasn't sure you were going to make it.
I slept here, you kidding me?
I understand that one.
Yes, you do. I know. Most of the people don't, but some do. That's right.
Susan does too.
Rocco J. Carzo Cage, dedicated to the athletics director, coach, mentor, and leader who from 1966 to 1999 joyfully taught the Tufts community that sport is a metaphor for life, and some of the most valuable lessons are imparted through the simple act of learning to play together.
Thank you very much. Larry Beckow just said, now you get a chance to defend yourself. I had a really lot of interesting things to say. I don't know what the hell they were that would be interesting to anybody, but I would have to say. But any of you who have done this before would know that by the time you get up, if you're not one of the first speakers, most of what you have to say has already been said. And I wanted to start out by just saying to all the people who are responsible for this to thank you so very much. I think what has happened here in the cage today is indicative of the kind of response that Tufts people make when there's a need. And we needed this cage rebuilt very badly, and a lot of people responded. We can never thank you enough for that. And it'll fall into place later on, and probably has already when you've listened to what the other people before me have said. So I would like to thank them. I particularly want to thank the donors for the specificity of their gift, but additionally, the Jumbo Club made a donation, which is a group of people, and having worked with them for a 25-year period, I can appreciate the kind of effort that they made with respect to building this or rebuilding this facility. I don't know how I could ever, in studying the history of Tufts athletics, there have been some real problems throughout the history. And a lot of them had to do with not having enough money to get things done and that match facilities with our peer institutions. And I think that history will show us that the athletic overseers, captained by John T. O'Neill, have done an incredible job of bringing us into the 20th century. Now, the 20th century is not today. Okay, so it's up to the new overseers to get us into the 21st century. We're halfway there. So that sounds like a commercial. It is, because you people here at Tufts are the best, and you deserve the best. In order to compete with everybody, we have to be able to match them facility-wise. So that's very much appreciative. I don't know if those of you that have played here and coached here and worked here have recognized the change that's taken place. I see a lot of former athletes here, and you remember this was a dirt floor, and it was a cinder track. And if I said a cinder track to our freshmen today, they wouldn't know what the hell cinders were. So, and one of the reasons we got away from cinder tracks is you can't get any replacements. They're an ideal surface for running because they're absorbed and they're spongy and they prevent injuries. But we had to go to wave all and go to plastic. This is the first plastic we had inside. That little lady over there is Kelly Carzo. See her? She's with her dad, Scott. And I think we can pronounce that as the first official use of the new indoor cage, because it's finally been recognized. So anyway, John T. O'Neill was in there, and I think he did a superb job of leadership. I learned from John about what leadership really is and what partnership is and what strategic planning is. And more than that, he just had enormous patience. He's a real saint. And he just took his time, and he knew the right things to do. And I would get upset. I'm impatient as hell. And I said, John, we got to press hard. We got to start doing this. I want deadline. He said, we'll get there, Rock. Take your time. And then we would meet down the Cape, and then we would meet down someplace else, and we'd go here. And little by little, we'd put a plan together, and finally things started taking shape. And Tom Renane's group with Eric Johnson and Brian and all those people worked like hell to raise the money to take care of the facility development we had to do at Tufts. That's pretty impressive, and they deserve a great deal of appreciation. What you see here, and the taste, and the color combinations, and the detail, we owe a great deal of thanks to. If you go in the other room and look, that was just a plain gymnasium. Under Bill's leadership, Coach Megley has detailed that room in there. With in the next gym, you see there's a new floor in there, and it's all been redone and repainted. And Casey had a lot to do with this facility, and Rick Miller had a lot to do with this facility, and Nancy Iavani, and the guy that was spearheading all this for development or for construction was a gentleman by the name of Rudy Peasy, and he was ably assisted by Bobby Rapucci. And I don't know whether they're here or not, but if they're here, they should be recognized. Thank you so much for. This is a historical moment. That was the second official use of the track, and that was Julia Carzo running over to meet Scott, her dad, and Kelly, her sister. Before this is over, we'll see if the other one. Uh-oh, now there goes Nicole Carzo. Now we're complete. Thank you so much. That was totally unrehearsed. So I told you all about that. In addition to that, we have the marvelous Marsh family. Those of you that knew Pop Houston know that Pop Houston was an unusual person, and one of his proteges was George Marsh. George Marsh came here as an underprivileged youngster, and he lived with Pop Houston, and Pop Houston gave him a scholarship. In addition to that, helped pay his way through college and helped him with expense money, got him a summer job, and he lived over the garage in what's presently the Alumni House, Tim. And George Marsh graduated from Tufts, never forgot what was done for him and what he learned from Pop Houston, that you have to pay back. And George has been paying back his whole life since he graduated. He's been extremely generous to Tufts, and he's married to Marilyn Marsh, a gifted woman who did this sculpture and two for Pop Houston, one of Hesse Sargent, and two reliefs on the front entrance to the Oval. And I'm telling you, there just isn't anybody that I know of that's more talented than Marilyn Marsh. And where are George and Marilyn? Here they are. This is a magnificent couple right here. They only gave me 5 minutes, so I'm going to have to hustle now. Bill already mentioned this, but it's true. 70 years ago in Ridley Park, Pennsylvania, in Taylor Hospital, in July, Rocky and Carzo and Terry Carzo were born. I was born a few days earlier because I was bigger and stronger and had a lot of hair, and she was born a few days later. But we spent 3 days in the hospital together, and that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. At the end of that third day, I remember reaching over to the crib and getting a little anxious there, and I said to her, how do you feel about long-term relationships? And Terry says, well, what do you have in mind? I said, well, I think that we should celebrate our 70th birthday at Cousins Gym in Medford, Massachusetts. How do you feel about that? She said, well, we'll see how you behave yourself. Well, we did get together a few years later. We married, we had children, they're all grown, we have grandchildren, and we're celebrating our 70th birthday, and here we are. Thanks to you and thanks to all your generosity, and we're so pleased about all that. I mentioned Terry earlier because I think you all know Terry, and she's just a bright, articulate, and very intelligent woman, and she schooled all of us as well as raised us in our house, and I'd like her just to take a bow, please. Terry? And then I have just a couple other things I want to say, excuse me, that I'd just like to tell you why this dedication is such a great honor to our family. Let me introduce our family, but Bill already did, I guess. Did you introduce everybody, Bill? Let me just introduce the family that are here. That's Scott and his 3 daughters over here. You met them earlier, those 3. And the mother is Sheila Carzo. Sheila's right here. And then we have Amy Carzo, our daughter. And sitting next to Amy is Mark, our son, and his wife Susie, who this is the Carzo way. They flew in yesterday from England, and they're leaving tomorrow to go back to work in England. So we appreciate that very much. It's a nice expression of love. Thank you. And Chris Carzo, who flew up this morning from Philadelphia and has to go back this afternoon. And our other son, John, could not make it because of a personal complication, but he called early this morning and wanted to send his good wishes also. So let me just... Karen Bailey helped me when I was in her office. She's a director of publications, and I was doing some stuff on the jumbo prints, and I don't know how this came about, but I found out that prior to Tufts, prior to this whole complex here, this was known as a pansy farm. And I kind of laughed at that, and then I went to the archives, and Greg Colati showed me a picture of a farm that was here on this property growing pansies. And I thought, you got to be serious. And he says, no, here it is, and we got documented proof. And so this was started out as a pansy farm. And I was telling this to Karen Bailey, and she says, I don't believe that. I said, it's true, and I don't lie. That's a lie. So Karen says she looked it up, so she punched it into the computer, and it came up. Pansies, French, comes from the French word pensée, which means thoughtful, which I couldn't figure out how a flower could be thoughtful. And then it said this particular flower is strong and does better than any other flower, resisting cold weather. It's almost immune to disease, and it has unbelievable resiliency. And I thought, fantastic, I couldn't believe that. And she said, I said, read it over again. So she printed one of these things out on her computer, and I took it with me and I wrote it all down. And I thought, now that makes sense. You'll see why later on. But anyway, those characteristics sound pretty good. 1898, something very significant happened. John Cousins was born in 1898, I'm sorry, he wasn't born in 1898, and he graduated from Tufts in 1898. He's the member of the Tufts football team. And John Cousins was a very unusual guy. He left here when he graduated, got into the coal business, was very successful, made a lot of money, and he became president of Tufts in 1920. John Cousins had a great experience in football. He believed that sports were, as Larry Backhouse said, and John DiBiagio said before him, and Jean Mayer said before him, although I had trouble understanding Jean Mayer, and the other guys before them, he had kind of a funny accent. I don't know why. Every time he wanted to say no, he'd say, well, Rocky, I said, what the hell are you talking about? I need money and you're talking French. You know, anyway, he's up there listening to this, and he'd like that. He's a wonderful man. But Cousins knew what he was talking about. And let me tell you what was so interesting about it. He knew that we could serve a lot of purposes with Tufts other than just serving the students who played. You can't justify football just on the basis of those who play, or any sport just on those who play. It's a very expensive educational opportunity. But he knew that it become an identity for the rest of the students on campus, so that meant he had the whole student body involved. He knew it could become an identity for the alumni, and then you have your people coming back to you. And he knew down deep that it was a good selling card for prospective students. I think he was a bright guy. I think he hit the nail right on the head. And you know what? He built Cousins Gym in the midst of the greatest depression in the history of the world because he had the backbone to do it. And we're here today because he had that backbone. And I'll tell you what, he hit the jackpot. He had the greatest facility in the greater Boston area, and we didn't lose that dominance until 1960 when Harvard finally built their indoor cage, their new indoor facility. We hosted all the greater Boston meets here, and we hosted a lot of regional meets. So John Cousins knew what he was doing, and it was interesting because he knew how to do it. He went back and he asked another former football player on the Board of Trustees, a guy by the name of Austin B. Fletcher, to help him. And Austin B. Fletcher, as you know, endowed the Fletcher School with a grant. And Austin B. Fletcher said, yes, sir, I believe it too, because he played on the 1875 football team that played Harvard on June 4th, 1875, and is now being proven as the first American football game in the United States. We are going to displace Princeton and Rutgers if we have our way, and we're almost there. So hang in there. I learned that kind of wheeling dealing from DiBiagio at the NCAA meetings. Man, he'd say, you go out and get me some votes. I need 16 Division III guys. Say, you got them, coach, whatever you say. Well, Cousins had a plan in mind, and he loved it, and he knew the great experience he had. And he hit the jackpot again in 1926. He hired Pop Houston. You all heard these great stories about Pop Houston, and I won't elaborate on that, but he hit it right with Pop Houston. Together, they formed a philosophy that Larry Bacow detailed today, and you know what? It's not written down any place. It will be when Jumbo Footprints comes out, but it's not written down. It was passed down by word of mouth. We're a school that believes in people first. We're a people business. We care about people. We care how they work and how they learn and how they play, and we're going to make sure we teach them to do it right. I love that philosophy. When I heard it, I thought, I don't know, I looked it up and all. It's not in any books. It's not any place. People talking down and listening to what people say and why did you have a good experience of playing. And we're doing this in this football footprints things. We're calling all these alums and asking for things. And they're talking about the great experiences they had at Tufts. And you know why? Because nobody asked them in any way, shape, or form to do anything that they were incapable of doing. No one ever asked them how much ability they had. They just asked them how hard they worked. They made them work harder. They made them push for everything and every inch and every place that they went to get better and better and better. I thought that was the answer. And you know what? That sounds like Tufts. Educationally sound, based on a premise that the academic program is paramount and athletics has to fit into that. It works pretty well. And you know what? It'll never, and it wouldn't in history, and it won't ever, as long as Tufts stays together, be overridden by concerns for entertainment. And what that means simply is we're not going to prostitute some kid just so we can win a couple of games. And I can't tell you how proud I am of our coaching staff, because they'll say that. They'll say, you're not playing. And he may be doing okay academically. And you know who decides who plays here? Is the dean. If he's not doing it or she's not doing it, they don't play. But if a coach decides that they're not working hard enough, but they're showing that they're doing it, he can disqualify them. He can say, you're not playing until you do better, and we expect you to do better. Get it up. Let's get going. I like that. I think that's terrific. That has something to do with this facility, and I'm not sure how it all ties together, but I hope it will in the end when you think about this later on, because I know you're probably going to have this in your mind the rest of your life. This facility has a certain spirit about it. And when we came in here, it was dead. It was just colors and shapes and forms and all these nice little things around it. It was inanimate. So we can't say that this facility's done a great job, but it has. It's answered every demand we put on it. It's educated every kid we sent down here, and it never stopped. It never gave up. Twice in my duration, in my career, it wore out. How would you like to have a teacher that wore out twice trying to teach you? Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I believe that when you come down here, there's a certain spirit about this place that permeates you and me and all of us. And all of you played here, all of you worked here, all of you had some relation to this room. And that spirit has a lot to do about going the long haul. It says something about we're going to go the long haul. We're not here for a week. Those walls, gentlemen, are poured concrete. Those beams are steel. Those windows are wood. They're steel. There's wooden seats out there. There's a track here that'll never quit. Nothing in this building will rot. It's here for the long haul. There's a quality of construction and a strong sense of commitment. Excuse me. Steve, are my 3 minutes up yet? This is my last chance. You guys got to sit still. But let me tell you what it reminds me of, because I think it all does tie together. It's like Susan Ernst saying, I was here late in the evening and I was doing this and I was concerned. It's like Boris having the award system and caring about every person he presents at the academic awards ceremony. It's a lot like DiBiasio's Packard. It has real chrome. It's not plastic with silver paint. It's real chrome. It's quality. It's going to last. It's going to be there for a while. And he feels good when he rides in it. It's like Backhouse sailboat. He's got a sailboat that has real mahogany on it. The rest of the guys have plastic and stuff. Not Backhouse. He's got some mahogany on his boat, and if you don't have it, you better get it. And Wayne Bouchard, he's the dean up there in Blue Hall too, and he's got lighthouses. Not fake lighthouses. He has pictures and all that stuff, but he knows all about lighthouses. I think that's quality stuff. That's their big deal. And probably the most impressive thing is that Sol Gittleman still has a baseball glove. It's not just a baseball glove. It's a leather baseball glove, and it's made of leather, oil, and spit. And it gets better and better. How about that, David? Nobody even remembers you spit in your glove, right? David Hayes, a psychiatrist from White Plains, New York. Marge Bennetson, thank you so much for coming. Anyway, Sol's baseball glove is, and all these things are really indicative of what we're talking about and where we're going and what we're trying to do. And they say something about us, that we believe that things ought to last a long time and we ought to go for the long haul and we ought to make it. And if somebody needs help, we got to get out of the way. And all the things that Bob Bass said, I just got out of the way and let the players run the show. That's how we got better. Yeah. And I never gave orders that I know of. Well, anyway. Does that sound funny to you, that this facility has a certain integrity to it? That it can stand by itself? That it can stand with other facilities? You can come here, you can play, you can run, you can compete. And you know what? It still embraces you, and it gives off the right kind of feel. It sounds a little bit like those pansies, doesn't it? Sounds a little bit like the pansies. And that's what kept coming together in my mind. That crazy stuff that I have trouble with. Anyway, the best and most impressive of all the reasons that I'm happy about this and that I'm so impressed with the fact that we've rebuilt this facility and to have the Carzo name up there, our family will never forget this. This is a lifetime, and Terry and I both feel this way, and we hope that our parents are up there watching us today because we want to honor them too. I forgot where I was, but I think we talking about the most impressive aspect, because I want to get off of this stage, and we talked about the building being inanimate. We said we were lucky enough to play, and here, when this facility's closed, you come in here and it's just dead. Just not there, much air moving or something. Then all of a sudden the coaches come in and they bring their teams in, and all of a sudden this music starts playing. You start hearing feet shuffling. Then you start hearing whistles blowing. Then you start hearing baseballs hitting bats and bats hitting baseballs. And then you start seeing people running and other people jumping and other people vaulting, and some are jumping over wood and some are jumping in sand, and you got all this activity. Now it's a real cacophony. It's gorgeous. It's unbelievable. And then you see every coach treating every kid the same but different. Now, how the hell can you do that? I don't know, but they do it. they say you all have to get things done, but if you need help, I'm going to help you, and you do it your way, and I'll help you the other way. It's absolutely sensational to go through that and to feel that. I am proud to say that I've spent half of my life here at Tufts, and my family spent almost all of their life there. While Terry and I have been half of our lives, and the children have spent all their lives here, and we were thrilled about that. And I'm thrilled because you all deserve to be recognized. We spent that time with you. You were appealing to us, and Tufts was appealing to us, and we weren't coming here for buildings. We were coming here for the people, and the people were the best, and they treated us the best. We came here from California, being foreigners to this area, and you welcomed us with open arms and told us what you could do, asked us what you could do to help. Didn't give us any money. We came anyway. Didn't give us any equipment. We came anyway. We didn't have any players. We came anyway, because Tufts had it. You had it in there. You had it in your heart, and that you can't hide. And recognizing all of you for all that you've done and all the beauty that you've brought to this school and all the integrity that you've maintained here. So my family and I will share this honor with all of you in deference to your perpetuating it for the next generation. We think that's important. We all have a responsibility to pay it back, not in more new buildings. That's the easy part, giving some money and doing this, but helping the youngsters along the way, give them a place to play, give them a place to grow, and make sure if they fall down, we help them back up again. Don't let them take the easy way. We know that's a lifetime job, and I'm still learning. I learned it last night again. You got to get out of the way. Our conclusion is very clear and very simple, and it's about athletics, and it says that the purpose of athletics is educational. It's to make better people. That's what the purpose of sports are, to put you in a competitive environment, to put you under stress, and to see how your values hold up. And if you fail and you make a mistake and you do something wrong and you cheat or you lie or you don't work hard enough, that's okay. We only lose a game. And under those circumstances, we think it's satisfying the purpose that it was designed to do. The important thing is we have to all understand that if you do it right, you never lose. Thank you very much for a wonderful day.
Let me just say a couple of things in closing. Rocky started his speech with a statement. For those of you who have done this before, you know, and I thought to myself, Rock, none of us have a facility named after us. Okay, none of us have done this before. It's really amazing, I think, what's being done for you here today, and clearly you deserve it. Having listened to the several people who spoke with me here today, I'm again reminded of the incredible depth and breadth of Rocky's influence throughout this community, and extends to Europe as well with Talwar. His influence has been absolutely amazing, okay, and maybe unparalleled by anybody else that I've known during this time at Tufts, okay, and you are just so deserving of this honor, Rocky. The second thing is that when we got together to talk about the program, sitting there with Celeste and Eric, and we're talking about, okay, who's going to talk? How much time are they going to take? We said, Galen, he'll give him 5 minutes. You know, the president will give him 5 minutes. We'll let him take 6 if he wants. Susan Ernst will take 4 or 5 minutes. And then they said, well, Rocky, 5 minutes. And I said, give Rocky 5 minutes. It doesn't matter what you give Rocky. He's going to take whatever he wants. In fact, give him 5 because he generally will do 4 times as much as you give him. So that's 20 minutes. That'll work just about right. Okay, Rocky, I never get tired of listening to you talk. Okay, we all love you. I can't tell you how happy I am and how happy we all are to honor you today in this way. Okay? Congratulations again. I want to tell you all there's some wonderful food here. Please stay as long as you want, socialize, and then we'd love to see you out at the field supporting our teams. Thank you for coming.
The dedication of the Rocky Carzo Cage this morning that we were able to bring to you right here live on JumboCast. Hopefully you were able to get connected and stay connected and enjoy it along with us. Quite a performance from all of the speakers, and certainly by Rocky himself. Bill Gelling saying we'd give him 5 minutes, but we know he's going to take a lot more than that. But still a great ceremony for what is really a terrific venue. We're glad that you could join us on JumboCast for this live video cast this morning. I'd like to thank Hannah Sue for doing all of the production work and helping all of us unstress a little this morning, and also Chris from Tufts Lighting Video and Sound for helping us get things going. I am Steve Clay from JumboCast. We're going to leave you now with a quick tour around the facility, and don't forget we'll have Rocky Carzo on at halftime with us on the football game this afternoon right here live on JumboCast. So and that is coming up with a 12:30 kickoff, 12:30 pregame, and a 1 o'clock kickoff. So once again, one trip around the newly dedicated Carzo Cage, and we'll see you later on JumboCast. Thanks.